Let me start with a thought that quietly controls most money decisions: carryover thinking. It's when old money rules follow you into a new life, rules that once kept you safe, rules that now keep you stuck. If you've ever felt like you work hard but never move forward, this is probably why. Here's the problem. Most people think money problems are about income. They think, if I earn more, things will fix themselves. So they chase raises, extra hours, side work. But nothing really changes because the thinking stays the same. Carryover thinking means you're using survival logic in growth situations. You learned how to handle money when you had very little. So your brain learned one job: don't lose it. Save, avoid risk, delay decisions, stay small. That mindset worked once. It kept food on the table. It prevented disaster. But here's the issue. That same logic does not build anything new. When you start from zero, saving feels responsible. When you're still saving at zero, it becomes a ceiling. Carryover thinking makes you treat money like it can disappear at any second. So you never let it move. You never let it work. You overprotect small amounts. You underbuild systems. This is why people stay busy but broke. They are applying old rules to a new game. Money isn't just numbers. It's decisions under pressure, and your brain defaults to what once kept you safe. This isn't about being wrong. It's about being outdated. Carryover thinking shows up quietly. You avoid starting because you don't feel ready. You delay learning because it feels risky. You wait for certainty that never comes. And the most dangerous part, it feels smart. It feels mature. It feels responsible. But responsibility without direction becomes stagnation. In this video, we're going to unpack this step by step, not to motivate you, not to hype you, just to help you see what you're actually doing and why starting from zero requires a different mental frame than staying alive. That's the foundation. Old rules, new life, same thinking, and that mismatch is expensive. Let's slow this down, because carryover thinking isn't obvious. It hides inside normal behavior. Think about how people treat their first bit of money. They guard it. They freeze it. They protect it like it's fragile glass. That makes sense when money is rare. Scarcity trains caution. But here's the deeper layer. Scarcity also trains fear of motion. When you've lived with not enough, movement feels dangerous. Spending feels like loss. Trying feels like risk. So the brain says, hold, wait, don't mess this up. The problem is that growth requires movement. Money that never moves never multiplies. Carryover thinking convinces you that safety comes from stillness. In reality, safety comes from systems. When people start earning, they often keep the same inner rules. They still think like someone one bad month away from collapse. So they never build leverage. They trade time for money forever. They stay reactive. They stay replaceable. Not because they lack intelligence, but because their mindset is anchored in a past reality. This is why people earn more and still feel poor. Their mindset never updated. They increase income, but their decisions stay defensive. They avoid learning skills that don't pay immediately. They avoid starting projects that look uncertain. They avoid discomfort that doesn't guarantee reward. Carryover thinking says, only do what you know works. But what you know worked only worked for survival. Growth requires a temporary drop in certainty, a phase where effort comes before results. That phase feels irresponsible to a survival-trained brain, so people skip it. They stay in jobs they understand. They repeat patterns that feel safe. And then they wonder why nothing compounds. The truth is uncomfortable. You cannot build a different future with the same internal rules that protected your past. This isn't about being reckless. It's about updating the operating system. A child learns to crawl, then walk, then run. But carryover thinking is trying to sprint while still crawling mentally. Until you notice this, you will always feel like money is just out of reach. Not because it is, but because your rules won't let you move toward it. This is the deeper foundation. Not money, not income, thinking lag.
Now let's make this practical, because this isn't theory. It shows up in real choices every day. Imagine someone starting from zero. No savings, no assets, just time and effort. Carryover thinking tells them to save first. But save what? There's nothing to save yet. So they delay action. They wait for extra money that never appears. A growth mindset would say something different. It would say, build earning ability first. Carryover thinking hates that, because learning without guaranteed pay feels risky. So instead of learning skills, people look for shortcuts, quick wins, low-effort income ideas. When those fail, they retreat further into safety. Here's another example. Someone finally earns a little more. They immediately lock their lifestyle tight. No reinvestment, no tools, no education. They treat growth money like emergency money. That's carryover thinking in action. Now for the reality check. Being careful is not the same as being strategic. Carefulness protects what exists. Strategy builds what doesn't. If you are starting from zero, your biggest asset is not money, it's adaptability. It's learning speed. It's willingness to look foolish early. Carryover thinking suppresses all three. It tells you to look stable instead of becoming capable. This is why many people feel responsible but stagnant. They are optimizing for comfort, not progress. And comfort has a cost. It delays skill acquisition. It delays exposure. It delays compounding. Reality doesn't reward caution forever. It rewards alignment with the stage you're in. Survival stage needs caution. Building stage needs experimentation. If you mix them up, you get exhaustion without results. That's not failure. That's misapplied thinking. So let's reframe this properly. Carryover thinking isn't stupidity. It's loyalty to an old version of yourself. But growth requires betrayal. Not of values, of outdated rules. The rule of don't lose money must eventually evolve into learn how money is made. The rule of play it safe must evolve into take controlled risks with small amounts. This doesn't mean gambling. It means intentional movement. The goal isn't to feel safe. The goal is to become resilient. Resilience comes from skills, not savings alone. Here's the contrast. One person saves every dollar and avoids growth. Another invests time into learning, building, and testing. The first feels calm. The second feels uncertain. 5 years later, the calm one is still worried. The uncertain one has options. That's the trade-off. Short-term discomfort for long-term control. Carryover thinking chooses short-term calm. Updated thinking chooses long-term leverage. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. Money problems are rarely money problems. They are timing problems. You're using yesterday's rules for today's situation. Once you see that, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I protect what little I have? And start asking, what am I building that lasts? That question alone shifts behavior. You start investing in learning. You start valuing exposure. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. This is how people actually move from zero. Not fast, not easy, but correctly. If this helped you see your own patterns more clearly, take a moment to subscribe. This channel isn't about hype. It's about thinking clearly when money is involved.